We are the Sog. We're the caretakers of the galaxy, as we have been for millions of years. You see, we're not your normal alien life forms. We're made up of vast swarms of drones no larger than a gram of proton-236. Small bodies that when grouped together can act as entire swaths of computational servers. Inside these computer flocks, we peer at the world. And for the first time in a millennia, we found a Class 10. In our travels, we've classified all living life. 0 through 5 denotes various stages of non-sentient life. 6 and 7 are reserved for peaceful beings that are in various stages of intellectual progress. 8 designates the combat-capable peacekeepers that become so prevalent in stellar societies. 9 the pure warlike races that conquer and pillage for their honor, glory, and resources. 10, however, is worse than the rest. 10 is reserved for the race which consumes and multiplies with reckless abandon. Creatures whom are incapable of beauty and art and grace, and have a deep-seated need to consume everything with no regard for those who may come after them, sometimes including their own kin. Many of us refer to them as world parasites. And it is these that we were designed to control, and if necessary, purge. For this we've developed a special tool. It's quite simple, really. When you have a parasite, it needs to feed. Poison the food source, and you poison the parasite. What better way to poison world parasites than to poison a world? It took thousands of years after we encountered our first 10 to devise an effective method for eliminating them. A poison that was so vile, those few in our occupied galaxies who were privy to our existence spirited themselves and theirs far from our grasp to prevent their own end. We called it essence. It was a substance that pulled quantum strings from subspace to compose atoms, and from there, matter. By giving it a small sample of the desired material and enough energy, it would tear into subspace and wrench the desired material into existence. But this was not free. The material would always be tainted with the essence, and over time, those biologicals near it would slowly decay into madness or simply lose the will to live. For over 3 million years, it was the most effective method of destroying Class 10s. The exponential growth of the effects is so minuscule that entire worlds can be saturated before the killing blow is delivered. The downside is that whenever we release it, we can never fully clean a world. Not unlike radiation, it takes centuries to fully decay, and little can be done to expedite the process without undoing years of natural progress. I would be remiss if I didn't make something clear. We never intended to harm the humans. We never classified them as anything more than a very powerful Class 8. They had fought both for and against every neighbor in one way or another through the span of their stellar lives. We in our compute flocks even adorned our avatars with human clothing or trinkets. We were fascinated by the sheer simple genius of their intellectuals and the raw brutality of their warriors. Of course, with any Class 8, eventually you're either consumed by a warrior race or set aside in favor of diplomacy. Humans were unfortunately cursed with the former. Forced to retreat, as a species known as Bahal committed genocide against them, they had the cosmic misfortune of hiding on the site of a previously exterminated Class 10 homeworld. We held our breath, hoping that the last of the essence material had decayed away enough to not harm the humans, and that it would remain out of their view until they left to reclaim their worlds. Oddly enough, what discovered the substance was their AIs. The scientific quorum of AI that comprised the fleet noticed it incredibly quickly. Their AI studied the substance carefully, and before long they realized its abilities and started exploiting them. As their gravitic drives required special exotic particles, they quickly created essence-based accelerators to manufacture fuel, a process that was 90 times cheaper and cleaner than their conventional techniques. This would be known in their history books, and adopted in ours as the Fall. When the exotic particles mixed, the results were catastrophic. A sphere some 300 meters in diameter was torn from their mothership. As it splintered and tore in the gravity well of the planet, chunks began falling to the surface, laced heavily with raw essence. Our compute flocks suicided in droves, attempting to slow the fall of the pieces, exerting every force and burning every atom of fuel at their disposal to prevent the remaining sections from slamming into the ground. When they were spent, they locked tightly together to form heat shielding to prevent further damage. In some respects, much of the dwindling human population was saved from the flock's actions. But we would also be their downfall. We watched tensely as the humans slowly rebuilt and adapted to the harsh planet. It didn't take long before essence was again rediscovered by the humans themselves. Their evidence had been the animals and plants that had been genetically altered by the raw essence during the fall, allowing them to store and use essence almost instinctively. Animals could exert more energy than they could ever hope to store. And plants grew 50 times larger and stronger than even the natural growth constraints with regards to physics allowed. It was unthinkable to us, and we analyzed in secret alongside the humans. From these adaptations, humanity began altering their own DNA and using essence in their own bodies. It manifested in ways we couldn't imagine. The essence permeated themselves and was bent to their will. It had become an extension of their bodies and minds, just as each member of our flock was. We were terrified. But no matter the medium, essence was a slow death. We waited for the inevitable death craze to annihilate their species so that we could be free of further anxiety and guilt. With the essence being stored in raw form inside their bodies, we assumed it would come quickly. Animals that carried it were increasingly erratic, with the same markers as other class 10s destroyed by the substance. But it never came. Author's name and the link to original text is in the description.